behind me is the refreshed 2024 Chevrolet Trailblazer. In this video, we'll go through what's actually new for 2024. Let's jump in and see what it's like. Let's start with the exterior for the changes to the 2024 Trailblazer. So up front, you have revamped headlights and you have a revamped front fascia, pretty standard stuff. And then around the rear, you get revamped taillights. Again, minor changes on the outside. There are 2 new color options and every trim gets a new wheel design. So minor on the outside, same dimensions, nothing really significant. However, moving inside, the first thing you'll notice is the massive 11-inch infotainment screen and the matching 8-inch digital instrument cluster. And if you've seen anything within the last, I'd say 6 to 12 months from GM, you'll have a lot of familiarity with these screens. And it presents a really nice, modern, and very clean look. Let's start with the infotainment system. So the graphics are very high res, there's not a lot of lag, it's fairly quick, and everything is well laid out. There's not really a lot of digging. By modern standards, this new 11-inch infotainment system checks all the right boxes. Thankfully, there is still a volume dial, and I think we've all learned from Honda's big mistake a few years ago with the Civic. Almost everybody will keep a physical volume dial somewhere on the infotainment system. Well, everybody should. Now over to the left, in front of the driver, you have your instrument cluster. And thankfully, there's a small little hood over it to get rid of a lot of the glare. There are 3 different styles you can get as far as what you see for the instrument cluster's information, but everything is there. It's nice, it's clean, it's easy to read, and all of the information is visible through the hole in the steering wheel. These 2 big screens definitely bring the Trailblazer up into a more of a desirable vehicle as far as a modern standard goes, because, well, the 2023, not the greatest as far as appeal went, but with all the big sweeping changes that GM across all of its brands are making to how it presents screens and how it designs the interior to make it extremely user-friendly and stylish, it shows and it goes quite a long way. And for those who are not quite tech savvy but do have an appreciation for tech in their vehicles, I think the Trailblazer's upgrade here to, again, the 11-inch infotainment and 8-inch instrument cluster will make a big difference. Let's move on to the driving side of things. So there are 2 ways you can get your 2024 Trailblazer. You can get it in front-wheel drive, or you can get it with all-wheel drive. Power specs for the front-wheel drive are a 1.2-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder, 137 horsepower, 162 pound-feet of torque, and that's run through a CVT. If you want all-wheel drive, that bumps it up to a 1.3-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder engine, 155 horsepower, and 174 pound-feet of torque, with the notable difference here being the CVT is swapped out in exchange for a 9-speed automatic transmission. If you do opt for the all-wheel drive version, you are spending a little more on fuel. The front-wheel drive is rated at 7.7 liters per 100 kilometers combined, and the all-wheel drive bumps up to 8.6 liters per 100 kilometers combined. And regardless of front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, all Chevrolet Trailblazers for 2024 run off a 50-liter fuel tank. So what's the 2024 Trailblazer like to drive? Well, I'm in the RS all-wheel drive trim, and it's fairly quick considering the class of vehicle. Now, don't come at me and say, well, this thing isn't quick at all. It barely has any horsepower or torque. I get that. But the purpose of this vehicle, it's a commuter vehicle, it's a little city runabout. Sure, you can do some longer drives with it and do a road trip or 2, or few for that matter, but as Chevrolet's second smallest vehicle, it's going to get you from point A to point B without any issues. Getting onto the highway, take an extra couple of seconds. That's due to the power figures being in the mid ones. And no one's making an unsafe car in the modern world, but it's not going to be lightning fast, and there is a little bit of that turbo lag going on. So in addition to taking an extra couple of seconds for getting up to highway speeds, also keep that in mind when you're planning any passing maneuvers as well. You can't just stomp down on the accelerator and expect that instant response. It is a little loud on the highway, and again, it's the class of vehicle. It's not a knock against it. So if and when you do take this for a test drive, make sure you go on the highway. And if it's a little too noisy, just know that you have a decent audio system to crank up and get rid of some of that excess wind noise. On city streets, the Trailblazer does extremely well. Why? Well, it's small, it's agile, it's nimble, it's easy to drive, it's easy to park. Basically, it's all the good things that a subcompact crossover needs to be. There's no problem in pulling in for a parking spot or backing in or even parallel parking. All the controls are extremely close to you, so you're not taking your eyes off the road for too long. HVAC is full of physical buttons, which is a huge plus, and to me that shows that GM, specifically Chevrolet, has found balance between the modern world of screens and the traditional world of hard touch buttons. Now, there's not nearly as much road noise here on city streets as there is on the highway. You're at lower speeds, there's not really a lot of wind noise coming through or bleeding through. And as far as general comfort goes for the driving dynamics, it's pretty good. Now, because it is in the mid 30K for a price range, you're not going to get the best suspension out there. It's a little rough, it's a little intrusive, you feel a lot of the bumps, and there is an active trim, which is the same price here as we have with the RS, and that's more of their off-road tuned type of suspension. And I use the word off-road extremely lightly for a Chevrolet Trailblazer, and it's got a skid plate, and it's got, again, slightly tuned suspension geared towards more of the off-roading. I don't know how much actual off-roading will be done, but Chevrolet wants you to take at least the active trim out and do some adventuring. Quick touch on standard safety here, and there's a lot of it, so shout out Chevrolet for that. 10 airbags, automatic emergency braking, forward collision assist, front pedestrian braking, lane keep assist, lane departure warning, and automatic high beams. You can get a few other features the higher up in the trim ladder you go, but as far as what every Trailblazer driver gets for 2024, it's a pretty solid list. The heated steering wheel and heated front seats are not standard. You have to go away from the base trim to one of the other 3 trims to get it. Kind of a miss for me, but on the positive side, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto do come standard. That's going to wrap it up for the 2024 Chevrolet Trailblazer. If you have any questions on the vehicle, let us know in the comments. We are always happy to engage in respectful dialogue. Visit our website, Driving.ca, for more news, reviews, and information you can use on subcompact crossovers. For Driving.ca, I'm Jay Canna.